Hello again, viewers, and welcome back. Today's story comes from Dean from England, and it's a cautionary tale about a holiday romance that turned complicated very quickly. Dean, who had never considered visiting Thailand, met a Thai woman in the UK. After their relationship ended, he decided to visit Thailand, where he met another woman who, on the surface, seemed genuine. However, over time, Dean began to suspect that her intentions weren't as sincere as they initially appeared, and that money was a significant factor in their relationship. Let's hear his story. Right then, let me lay out the situation for you because frankly, even recounting it all to myself feels a bit surreal. I'm in my early 40s, got a decent job that keeps the bills paid, and a bit extra for the occasional indulgence. Been divorced for a decade now. A chapter closed, I thought, with no real desire to reopen it anytime soon. And up until about 2 years ago, the thought of visiting Thailand, let alone getting involved with a Thai woman, had never even flickered across my radar. My world was pretty much set. Work, the odd pint with mates, weekends pottering around the house. Exotic travel and international romance were firmly in the not my life category. Then, out of the blue, as these things often happen, I met a Thai lady through my work here in the UK. She'd been in England for a good 10 years by then, married to an Irish bloke, a union that had unfortunately run its course, leaving her also divorced. Initially, she was sweet, almost disarmingly so. Loving in her words and actions, and incredibly kind, always thoughtful. Naturally, perhaps predictably, I started to fall for her. And as I did, I also found myself drawn into the stories she told me about her homeland, Thailand. Her descriptions painted a vibrant picture of stunning landscapes, rich culture, and a warmth of spirit that sounded a world away from the drizzly reality of a Tuesday evening in Weston-super-Mare. But the initial charm, the blossoming connection, it didn't last. After maybe a year, a shift occurred. She started going out a lot with her Thai girlfriends in the city where I lived. These weren't quiet dinners, they were all-night affairs, partying until the early hours with no contact whatsoever. My calls and messages would go unanswered, leaving me in a state of anxious confusion. The woman I thought I knew seemed to vanish when she was with this group. The late nights and radio silence became a pattern, eroding the trust and affection that had built up. So, inevitably, with a heavy heart and a sense of disappointment, we broke up. It was messy, tinged with accusations and misunderstandings, a far cry from the initial sweetness. But that relationship, short-lived and ultimately painful as it was, inadvertently planted a seed in my mind. Despite the negative experience, I became strangely curious about this country she'd described with such passion. The idea of visiting one day started to take root, a little tendril of wanderlust growing in the unexpected soil of a failed romance. It was almost as if the stories she'd told had taken on a life of their own, separate from the person who'd narrated them. So, in the summer of this year, feeling a need for a change of scenery and perhaps a touch of adventure, I finally booked a 3-week trip to Thailand. I was determined to travel around, to soak it all in, and see as much of the country as I possibly could. I joined a few expat groups on Facebook, and in the process, made a few Thai female friends online. A couple of them were quite upfront, almost blunt, about being bar girls, and asked me directly to bar find them, saying they'd happily travel with me if I did. But that wasn't what I was after. I wanted to experience the country on my own terms, enjoy being single, and explore without any prearranged agendas or expectations. I envisioned myself wandering through ancient temples, exploring bustling markets, and relaxing on idyllic beaches, a solo adventure of discovery. Then, the day before I was due to fly out, one of these Facebook friends, a 27-year-old woman with a 2-year-old son from a previous relationship with a Western guy, sent me a message saying she really wanted to meet me. We'd had some decent chemistry in our online chats over the past few months. Her messages were engaging, and she seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. She'd assured me she had never worked in a bar and lived with her parents in the north of Thailand, a detail that offered a sense of stability. However, she did mention she had a place in Pattaya where she stayed for a few months each year with her son. That little detail, looking back now, should have probably triggered a klaxon of red flags in my mind, but at the time, caught up in the excitement of the impending trip and the prospect of meeting someone, I brushed it aside. Anyway, the day I landed in the chaotic, vibrant sprawl of Bangkok, we met up later in the day. She was waiting for me at my hotel, a small, petite woman with a warm smile. We spent the first week of my trip together, exploring the dazzling temples and bustling street markets of Bangkok, then taking a short flight down to the stunning beaches of Phuket. I have to admit, I was genuinely touched by how much she showed me. She took me to beautiful, ornate temples I wouldn't have found on my own, introduced me to local places to eat and drink that were a world away from the tourist traps, and seemed genuinely enthusiastic about sharing her culture with me. It felt like she was really making an effort to ensure I had a good time, and I started to feel a connection growing between us, a sense of shared experience and burgeoning affection. After that first week, though, the dynamic shifted abruptly. She told me she had a sudden family emergency back north and had to fly back immediately. Feeling sympathetic and wanting to help, I gave her 10,000 baht, a significant sum in Thailand, and paid for her flight. She promised she'd come back to meet me in Phuket soon, once the family situation was resolved. But then things started to get a bit strange, to say the least. Instead of flying directly to her city in the north, she told me she would fly to Bangkok, then take a taxi all the way to Phuket. A journey of many hours, just to pick up some paperwork for her son, and then fly back north on the same day. It sounded incredibly convoluted, and frankly, a bit unbelievable. Why not just get someone else to send the paperwork, or arrange for it to be couriered? The logic just didn't stack up. For the next week, I waited in the tropical paradise of Phuket, visiting various tourist spots, trying to make the most of my holiday, but I was lucky if I received 3 WhatsApp messages from her a day. The vibrant communication we'd had in Bangkok dwindled to a trickle. A suspicion, cold and unwelcome, started to gnaw at me. I'd seen some fleeting things on her Facebook wall, a new profile picture taken in what looked suspiciously like a Pattaya bar, a few ambiguous comments from other profiles that made me think she might have gone back to Pattaya to meet some other guy, or perhaps even resume a previous life there. But I had no concrete proof, and I desperately wanted to believe her explanation. So I tried to push the unsettling thoughts to the back of my mind, telling myself I was being paranoid. Eventually, for the last 3 days of my holiday, she did finally return to Phuket, and we did reunite. We had a reasonably good time, enjoying the last days of sunshine and exploring a few more beaches. I even met her son, a sweet little boy, and her stepfather, a quiet, unassuming man. but she still didn't take me to her parents' home in the north, the place she'd initially described as her primary residence. Her excuse this time was that she'd only split up with her ex-boyfriend 3 months earlier and didn't want people in her hometown to gossip or make assumptions. Again, another little alarm bell, quieter this time but still present, rang in my head. It felt like she was deliberately keeping a significant part of her life hidden from me. I flew back home to South Shields, the tan lines fading but the questions lingering. And for the last 6 months, we've chatted and exchanged messages every single day. She calls me her boyfriend, peppers her messages with hearts and declarations of affection. But deep down, that nagging feeling, the suspicion that took root in Phuket, has only grown stronger. Over that 6-month period, I've sent her a total of 70,000 baht. It started with small amounts for what she claimed were urgent needs, and it's gradually escalated. Now, she tells me she has to pay 20,000 baht a month for her car. Don't even ask me what make or model it is, beyond the fact that I've been in it. And it is quite a nice vehicle, certainly not something I'd expect someone supposedly relying on a small family business to afford, but it just doesn't make sense to me. If you genuinely don't have a lot of disposable income, why would you commit to such a huge monthly car payment? She claims her only income comes from helping out with her parents' small business, the details of which remain vague. She also spent 3 whole months in Pattaya with her son after I left Thailand. A significant amount of time that keeps making me wonder, why all that time in Pattaya, a place she seemed so keen to avoid during my visit? Then I tried to reassure myself by thinking, surely she wouldn't be working in a bar in that kind of environment with her young son there. It's a conflicting image that I can't quite reconcile. We Skype every couple of days, and she's always friendly and engaging during our calls. But then I look at her Facebook profile, which is public, and see a friends list dominated by maybe 600 guys, many of whom appear to be Western men. She flat out refuses to officially acknowledge me as her boyfriend on Facebook. And when I ask her why, she becomes evasive, saying she doesn't want the world to know her business and that it's a private matter. On top of all that, she's now talking about wanting to come to the UK for a month in August 2025 and insists she needs 100,000 baht in her bank account before the British authorities will even consider giving her a tourist visa. This figure seems suspiciously precise and conveniently large. She also seems to spend a lot of time traveling around Thailand on her own, to tourist hotspots like Hua, Hin, Pattaya, again, and the islands of Samui, sometimes for a week or 2 at a time. Where is she getting the money for all this travel, if her only income is from a small family business? I think deep down I probably already know the answers to my questions. The red flags aren't just waving, they're practically doing the Macarena. But part of me, the lonely, perhaps slightly naive part, desperately wants it all to be true, wants to believe in the connection we seem to have in those first few days in Bangkok. But the doubts are huge and persistent, a constant hum of unease in the back of my mind. When I don't send her money, even if I just politely suggest waiting until my next payday, she gets genuinely angry and her language can be quite shocking. A stark contrast to the sweet persona she usually presents. Her English, ironically, is very good, articulate even in her moments of anger. She keeps telling me she's made mistakes in the past and isn't perfect, which feels like a preemptive justification for something. I can't shake the feeling that I'm just a sponsor, maybe one of several, and not really the boyfriend she claims to love. Funnily enough, she kept me well away from Pattaya during my trip, almost actively steered me in the opposite direction, and now insists that when I go back next year, a trip I haven't even booked yet, I might add, we can go anywhere in Thailand but there. Despite all these glaring red flags, I did genuinely have an amazing time in Thailand. It's a beautiful country with incredibly friendly people, and I would genuinely love to go back more often, to explore more of its wonders. But this whole situation with her, this constant uncertainty, and the feeling of being manipulated is casting a dark cloud over my memories of what should have been a carefree adventure. I really would appreciate some honest advice, even if it's not what I want to hear. I need an objective perspective on this whole tangled mess. So, what do you make of Dean's story? Do you think he's right to be suspicious, or is he misjudging the situation? Share your thoughts and advice in the comments below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this one.